A couple weeks ago, we talked about the science of balancing blood sugar. It's one of my favorite things about the Optavia program is how much you learn about your body and becoming more conscious and aware of how to just feel your best. And balancing blood sugar is one of the things that was really a game changer for me because I always had cravings. I was always hungry. I had inflammation. I could not lose weight. And it's because I was a sugar addict and I'd always sneak sugar in there. And I wasn't eating the right foods, and my blood sugar was just all over the place. So, I'm going to give you some of my top tips on how to balance blood sugar. Now, just a side note, a lot of these tips will apply once you reach your healthy weight in the next phase, but there's some of the things that you can start practicing now. So, if you are on the 5-in-1 program, continue doing what you're doing. Your 5 fuelings, your lean and green, those are all the habits that are going to get you where you need to be. So, a lot of these tips will be for later, but yes, some of the things that you can start practicing now. Now, just a little note, in your life book in element 15 and 16, it is a fountain of knowledge. Element 15 talks about the glycemic index, helping you to become more aware of what foods are lowest glycemic, what food you want to choose most often is key. So you can start practicing that with your kids or when you're at the grocery store, just becoming more aware. If you walk down the cereal aisle, becoming more aware of what cereals you might choose later on, or what breads, or what fruits, because you will become more aware of the glycemic index from element 15. And then element 16 is great because it talks about dealing with addictive foods. We all have those things that we have a hard time saying no to or we feel addicted to. For me, it was sugar. And I have found that when I learned to keep my blood sugar balanced, I wasn't craving the sugar. And so that was very powerful to know that you have control over that because your body reduces leptin. And when you eat too much sugar or carbs and you get an insulin spike, it blocks leptin. So you can't really feel when you're satisfied and you feel hungry more often. And so when we learn to balance blood sugar, it actually helps control cravings and hunger, which is awesome. So check out element 15 and 16 in your life book. There's so many great things about balancing blood sugar, dealing with addictive foods, just a fountain of knowledge. So I love those elements. Also, I want to share a few hacks that I learned from Glucose Revolution. It's all about balancing blood sugar, the science of it. And a lot of these hacks are what you're already learning on the program. And so that just goes right along with it. So number one, eat foods in the right order. Did you know that it matters what order you eat foods in? What order you put foods into your body? If you eat vegetables first, something with fiber first, it's going to slow down digestion and it's going to slow down a blood sugar spike. So putting some fiber, some vegetables in your body first is the best order. And also, I'll talk about this later also, but adding the carbs last, like if you're eating pasta later on, having some broccoli and then the pasta makes a big difference than the pasta, than the broccoli, because the broccoli will actually get the fiber. It will slow down the release of insulin. It will slow down the spike of the blood sugar. So the order you eat foods is important. So right now, if you're on the Optavia program, you're already eating low glycemic foods. So you don't really have to change anything, but maybe get in the habit of eating some of your vegetables during your lean and green meal first, to get in the habit of always choosing vegetables first. That would be a great thing to do. The second hack is add a green starter to your meal. Kind of goes along with what I talked with, but having a side salad or some vegetables, doesn't really matter what kind, especially low glycemic vegetables, of course, would be best, but having that as a starter to your meal, always starting your meal off with some vegetables is going to slow the spike. Also, stop obsessing about the calories. It matters more about the order and the foods that you're eating than the exact number, because your body will respond much differently if you're eating foods in the right order. So if you're eating low glycemic foods, lots of vegetables, lean protein, things that are going to be satisfying and filling, your calories will naturally be less, and you don't have to obsess about them. If you're fixing your plate, like we talked about the 9-inch plate, where you fill half of your plate with vegetables, a quarter of your plate with lean protein, a quarter of your plate with healthy carbs, you're naturally going to be eating less because you're going to feel more satisfied. Your blood sugars will stay stable, so you won't have the hunger and cravings. So you'll be surprised that you won't have to obsess about the calories and the macros once you get into those good habits and the right routine of how much to be eating and what to be eating, throughout the day. And then number 4, flatten your breakfast curve. Did you know that it matters what you eat for breakfast? Usually the first thing that you eat during the day is what you're going to crave throughout the day. So if you eat a donut or sugary cereal, it spikes your blood sugar early, and your blood sugar will kind of be out of control all day. Whereas if you eat a savory breakfast, like an omelet, some eggs, um, even some oatmeal if you don't sweeten it with sugar. I like to do like some Greek yogurt in the oatmeal. It will keep your blood sugar balanced from the morning and stay more stable throughout the day, and the cravings will be much better. And don't feel like you have to stick with the typical breakfast foods in the morning. Branch out, have a little bowl of soup in the morning. It doesn't have to be a breakfast food to eat it first thing in the morning, but starting the day off with something savory is really helpful. All right, tip number 5. Have any type of sugar you like. They're all the same. So once we add sugar back in, desserts, just know that sugar is sugar. For example, if you had a glass of apple juice and a glass of soda, it's going to read the same in your body. It's going to spike your blood sugar the same. And so just knowing that because it is fruit juice, it actually doesn't make a big difference whether it's a fruit juice or a dessert. It's sugar. So learning those hacks where you can keep that blood sugar more balanced when you do have sugar is really the key. And then also reaching for vinegar before you eat. So if you are having veggies, maybe like having a little vinegar on it, or like a olive oil and vinegar dressing is a great choice. Or even a few drops of vinegar, like apple cider vinegar, in your water before you eat will actually help lower your blood sugar, help keep that blood sugar more stable. So when you do have a dessert or something, if you started that meal with some vinegar, that will help keep that blood sugar balance. So that's a tip you could try if you want, but vinegar helps to balance the blood sugar also. Also, after you eat, move your body. So after you have a meal, try to go for a quick walk, even 10 minutes. If you can't get out and go for a walk, maybe you could do some push-ups or some squats. Getting your muscles activated will actually burn glucose and help balance the blood sugar. So trying to get moving after a meal is so important. So if you have a lunch break, trying to go for a quick walk before you go back to work instead of just sitting. Also, if you have to have a snack, go savory. Try not to eat sugar on an empty stomach. Try to choose something more savory, like some veggies and hummus. That would be much better than a sweet snack. So when you have a when you have a snack, try to choose something savory. On the Optavia program, there are a few optional snacks you can do, like pickles would be a great snack. 10 almonds, that's something that would be a great snack. Or celery stalks, great snack. All right, the next thing, put some clothes on your carbs. Now, I love this phrase because it just makes sense. Don't just eat naked carbs. Don't just eat the sugar, the bread, the desserts. You want to pair it with a protein, a healthy fat, or a fiber that will help lower the blood sugar spike. So never just eating a piece of fruit or a piece of bread or chips, like always pairing it with a protein, something that will, or some fiber will help lower that blood sugar spike. And so just getting used to never eating naked carbs. Put some clothes on them, put a little healthy fat, or a protein is so easy. Like if you eat protein every time you eat, then that's going to pair with the carbs and keep that blood sugar balance. So when you have, in that next phase, when we add fruit back in, not just eating a plain piece of fruit, but if you're going to have a banana, have a little nut butter or a little cheese with the apple, or a few almonds, or cottage cheese with the pears. A protein and a carb together will help keep that blood sugar more balanced, especially like if you're eating a lot of high carb things like a piece of bread, have an egg with it or some avocado. That will lower the spike. So that's a big one. And then let's see. I think that I didn't talk much about dessert. Not eating dessert on an empty stomach is really important, because if you eat sugar on an empty stomach, there's nothing to slow the spike. It just spikes your blood sugar, and then your body has to release the insulin, store that sugar into the fat cells. That's where we get into trouble, is mindless snacking throughout the day. So if you need a sweet, use one of these tips with it. If you eat it after a meal, you've already got that fiber and protein in your system. It will help lower the blood sugar. So trying not to eat like a cookie on an empty stomach, saving it for when it's time to eat and pair it with a protein is always easiest. Or at least having like some vinegar water with it, or a protein, a cookie with a little Greek yogurt, something like that, to never eat something that's going to spike your blood sugar on an empty stomach. So as far as dessert, save it for after your meal. Just, moderate amount of food and then a little bit dessert, you're going to feel great. And I always like to just listen to my body. I don't like to feel stuffed. Learning to stop when you just feel satisfied. And then Yeah, those are the 10 tips I wanted to share with you. I know that's a lot. Maybe you took some notes or you can rewatch it, but I encourage you just to choose one hack to start with. What's one of the things that you could do right now to start practicing balancing your blood sugar? What if it was moving after you eat? After you ate your lean and green meal, getting in the habit of going for a walk or doing some squats, moving your body. That would be an easy one right now. Maybe getting in the habit of a few drops of vinegar in your water or using a vinegar-based dressing on your salads or with your lean and green. If you took a few bites of vegetables always first on the lean and green meal, those would be a few easy things that you can do even when you're on the 5-in-1 program. And then all of these other tips that we talked about, those are things that you can incorporate as you move into transition and optimization that will help keep that blood sugar balanced and really give you the tools to manage your weight with mindset and nutrition. Becoming more aware and conscious is number one. And then nutrition, just learning to pair your foods right to balance your blood sugar. So check out element 15 and 16 in your life book. And I hope that you start at least one of those hacks to learn to balance your blood sugar more easier so that it is more of a natural thought. Every time you eat, you naturally are thinking about your blood sugar and what you're putting in your body and how you can just keep that more balanced. So just wanted to share that with you today, and I hope you have a great week.